Greetings folks, and welcome to another LGR thing about a monstrous old laptop. This right here is the Dell Inspiron 9100, a gargantuan desktop replacement system from the mid-2000s, weighing in at 4.1 kilograms or just over 9 pounds. And for its size, you received such amenities as a 15.4-inch 1200p display, combination CDRW and DVD drive, a built-in subwoofer, and even a full-sized Pentium 4 desktop CPU. Yeah, this thing ran hot and fast, with impressive capabilities and a price tag to match. Now, the base model 9100 on its own started at $1,549 upon its launch in March of 2004, but Dell offered gobs of upgrades to take it to the next level. A 100 gig hard drive was $200, a 256 meg Radeon 9800 graphics were another $200, the Windows XP Professional upgrade cost $80, 802.11a BG Wi-Fi support was $59, 2 gigs of DDR400 RAM cost nearly $1,800, and a 3.4 GHz Pentium 4 Extreme CPU configuration set you back another grand on top of that. So yeah, roughly $4,800 for a maxed out Dell notebook in 2004, making for a cool $6,700 or so, adjusted for inflation. With another, more intense, more expensive model on top of that, the XPS 9100, a gaming-oriented machine built into the same case, but with these trendy snap-on lids Dell called Quick Snap covers. And these three lids are about the most 2004 thing I've ever seen, titled Cypher, Plasma, and Skulls, with a Z, perfect. This particular 9100 I have here isn't quite that extreme, but it did receive several upgrades. Like the maximum supported 2 GB of RAM, an 80 gig hard drive, 802.11 BG Wi-Fi, a Radeon 9700 with 128 megs of RAM, and a 3.2 GHz Pentium 4 HT. An absolute beast of a machine that I could only dream of affording back in 04, so shout out to LGR viewer John for donating this lovely example for us to peruse today. And let's start with one of its standout features, the fact that it came with a full desktop Pentium 4 installed. None of that Pentium mobile stuff. This is a socket 478 Prescott Pentium 4 with hyperthreading, 800 MHz front side bus, a 1 MB L2 cache, and clocked at 3.2 GHz. And also consuming up to 103 watts of power, so not exactly the coolest running machine around, nor was it very kind to battery life, with a full charge to its 12 lithium-ion cells only lasting less than 2 hours. Sure, this is a desktop replacement intended to be plugged in most of the time, but around 86 minutes of battery is still amusingly awful, especially considering it's a 6,450 mAh beefy brick of a thing. And it's also got this handy little self-test button that lights up to show the current charge level, along with a built-in subwoofer in the corner. Yeah, you heard that right. The battery's got a woofer driver installed with an opening on the side that pushes bass out into a resonance chamber next to the battery bay, making this just about the most awesome laptop battery ever made. Well, except for the fact that they had a tendency to overheat and potentially cause fires, leading to a recall of 2.7 million units in 2006. Whoops. Whatever, it's fine. Let's move on. Because dude, look at the sheer number of ports around back. I love ports. You got S-Video, VGA and DVI video output, a 56K modem and Ethernet jacks, 3 standalone USB 2.0 ports, the AC adapter connection, and a Dell D-Bay port. This also doubles as a USB 2 port, but that little connection above allowed D-Bay devices to combine power and USB into a single cable. This meant easier connection of external CD burners and DVD drives, or even additional 2.5-inch hard drives if you get the inner tray and swap it out. Speaking of drive swapping, it also features a hot swappable drive bay on the left-hand side, normally filled with a combination CD rewritable DVD drive. It also supported 3.5-inch floppy drives if you really wanted to, but by 2004 that had become far less of a necessity. Beneath the optical drive is a single PCM-CIA slot that came with this Dell-branded plastic blank inside, as well as a FireWire port to the left of that, and 3.5mm headphone and microphone jacks driven by a Realtek AC97 audio chip. On the right-hand side of the machine is a whole lot of nothing, but around front, beneath the lid release, is a handy infrared communications port for syncing up your mid-2000s PDAs and cell phones. The bottom of the 9100 is packed with easily accessible stuff too. Beyond that ridiculous battery, you can also access 2 exhaust fans, both of which can be easily removed for cleaning, and accessing the RAM, the Wi-Fi card, and the hard drive are all similarly simple to swap, with only a single screw holding each one in place. Now that's an uncommon sight with modern notebook computers. This kind of user-serviceable design warrants respect. And then up top, there's the screen itself, a 16:10 aspect ratio TFT LCD panel with a native resolution of 1920 by 1200, allowing for full HD video driven by a 128MB ATI Mobility Radeon 9700. Nice. As for the keyboard area, of course Dell wasn't going to keep it simple. It's surrounded by blue plastic highlights and an array of media buttons for sound and transport controls, and not 1, but 2 mouse input devices, with both a trackpad and a track stick, each with their own separate left and right mouse buttons. Why stop at 1 mouse when you can have 2? The blue track stick works just like a red IBM track point, as you'd expect, but those mushy buttons it uses are truly awful. The trackpad fares much better with proper clicky buttons, but the pad itself leaves plenty to be desired. It's a tiny little thing that seems to have acceleration turned on no matter what you choose through software. Then there's the keyboard itself, which is a nicely sized 10-keyless design with a respectable key travel, a full row of function keys, and inverse T cursor keys that don't suck. Nothing fancy, but nothing awful either. It's all plenty good enough for word processing, web browsing, and even a bit of gaming. Speaking of which, let's power up this inspiring monstrosity, boot into Windows XP, and put it through its paces with a selection of PC games and applications suited to this brute of a laptop from 2004. Right, so it probably goes without saying, but I do not recommend using this so-called laptop on top of a lap of any kind. Not only is it heavy and hot as balls, but, well, no buts, that's it. It's extremely uncomfortable on a lap, so desktop it is. Which is fine, this is exactly the environment it was designed for after all, with its desktop Pentium 4 and ridiculous subwoofer underneath that sounds best up against a solid surface like this. And to that effect, let me just go ahead and play a music file here to hear a little bit more of that thing. Yeah, I know you're just hearing this on-camera recording through a YouTube video, through whatever speakers or headphones you happen to have, but hopefully you can tell that there's a little bit of a thump to it. Just a little bit. I mean, it doesn't sound like crap, but it doesn't sound great either. It's just got a wee bit more bass response than maybe you'd otherwise expect. I'm not sure I'd call it a subwoofer so much as another speaker with a bit of a resonation chamber, but hey, it's got more bass-ishness than just about any other laptop I've tried from this time period, so that's something. Yeah, it's another thing worth mentioning real quick. You know how that has a Wi-Fi card that was been installed in here? That was an option. Wi-Fi was not always on these things, and it's also not turned on by default. You actually have to press function F2 to enable the Wi-Fi card, and well, taking a Windows XP machine like this onto the modern internet is not a good idea for several reasons, not the least of which being security and such. I do have some antivirus and malware bytes and things on here to hopefully mitigate some of that really quick, because I just wanted to show you how YouTube runs on here. We've got the latest version of Firefox for XP anyway, and yeah, it's already it's already locked up. I mean, it's kind of responding. I mean, it's not happy. And hear those fans going nuts. 50% CPU utilization, 300 to 400 megs of RAM being used. Oh my word. It'll get there eventually, but yeah, single core, Pentium 4, 3.2 gigahertz, 2 gigs of RAM, and just Windows XP in general. Greetings and welcome to LGR Oddware, where we're taking a look at hardware and software that is odd, forgotten, and obsolete. it surprisingly plays pretty smoothly. And of course, sounds good. I mean, you got that speaker doing its thing. It actually does sound really good for a laptop, but right now it's at 480p, but yeah. I'll just go ahead and turn on the LGR wood grain PC. And you'll see here, it immediately powers on the NEC card. Yeah, it's doable, but you don't want to do it. Oh my goodness. It's just, it's bringing back bad memories. And even when we're not doing anything, it's still pretty loud. But again, Pentium 4, desktop thing going on here. You have the fans, crazy heat sinks and stuff. It's just a hot machine. Like it's radiating. Let's open Crystal Mark here so we can just see a bit more of the details. There's that Pentium 4 hyper-threading 90 nanometer Prescott socket 478. Just straight up desktop stuff right there. Just gonna run a hard disk test here to see what we get from that little 80 gig hard drive in there. Sequential read 26 megs per second. Sequential write is around the same, 27. And it's not going to be great. I don't know if it's a 5400 RPM or I think I was reading it is 7200, but it is still IDE, Ultra ATA, but whatever. It's not very fast. It's just kind of how it is. An SSD would go a long way into making this much more usable, no doubt, but I'm not going to do that. Yeah, there are the final results there. 4226 for the hard disk. And of course we do have that ATI Mobility Radeon 9700 in here. 128 megs. I mean, it's not that bad for the time. It's not amazing. The 9800 would have been the better option that was available, at least on the XPS. I don't know if it was available on the 9100 regular, but I know just looking at the Dell website, it seemed to be available later on, like 2005. I am running this at 1280 by 800 resolution because the full, you probably saw earlier, 1920 by 1200 is just ridiculous. You don't have the scaling kind of thing that you would get on later versions of Windows. So yeah, we'll do this. Even though it is not particularly great scaling either, but it's more readable. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, it looks awesome for a display of the time. I'm a fan of the 16 by 10 aspect ratio. There's the sound for the aquarium, just turned on there. But yeah, I mean, it looks great. It's not the brightest, most vibrant screen I've seen for computers around then. The Acer Ferrari that I have is a bit better, I would say, in that respect. But I mean, you know, that was from a year later. So, it's perfectly good for 2004, that's for sure. And on that note, I gotta do some benchmarks in a bit, but let's play some games from back then because I feel like it. Yeah, this is Flux. This is something I was thinking about recently when I was messing around with that NEC PCFX GA. Because of same game, and that's pretty much what this is. Heck yeah, that sound. Well, screwed that up. Oh man, I really enjoyed playing this back on Real Arcade back in the day. Also, Hyperbowl. Anybody remember this one? Yeah. It came with the Microsoft Plus pack for Windows XP. There's something about the specific way you control the ball all the way down the lane. That's what it is, man. It's Hyperbowl. No hyperbole needed. It's pretty awesome. Let's move on to some slightly more substantial games, though, like Speed Busters, another of my favorites from back then. I'm going to run these mostly at 1024 by 768 this and the next few games because not a whole lot of stuff was actually supporting 16 by 10 back then natively. I mean, this is a game from a few years before 2004. Still, even in 2004, most games were still going to be running in 4 by 3. Yeah. Oh, this game has personality, that's for sure. One of those where the track changes slightly with every lap. And a fascinating career mode with a bunch of upgrades and knots for your cars. And years before Need for Speed Underground was doing that kind of upgrade stuff, which made it pretty fun. Ah! Gotta try some UT 2004. It is only appropriate for a system from that year. 1280 by 832-bit. Mostly normal. Just kind of run it that way. See how that goes. Look at that. You know what? Actually, I might want to turn on Fraps for this. And hey, look at that. Getting around 100 frames there. And going down to like... I mean, still pretty darn good. We'll see what happens during actual combat.
Play.
Dang right. Oh yeah. Running this well on a laptop back then would have been a dream. And I turned myself into a skeleton. Alright. Like, I remember this running pretty good even on the laptop we had back then, but... seriously, this... just awesome. Yeah! I haven't been playing, I haven't been paying too much attention to the frame rate, but I think it was over 60 the entire time, so... yeah, excellent. And of course, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. At the time, I remember getting frame rates around 25-ish. It was definitely under 30, but yeah, look at that. You're getting around 40 to 50. Not bad at all. Let me see. Yeah, 1024 at 768, and kind of medium on the shadows and view distance, which I played on much lower settings than that at the time.
Yes.
What assistance do you need?
Go to jail. I just want to see how it runs. And it runs great. Look at all those frames in the indoor scenes. It was really, you know, the outdoor scenes. I remember some of the places just absolutely chugging some of the more open landscape areas. And anyway, Morrowind. Just wanted to see how it runs real quick. Expected it to be pretty good, and it was, but of course, I mean, we gotta try Doom 3. Like, the ultimate thing to try and run in 2004 alongside, like, Half-Life 2 and Far Cry. Doom 3, though, this right here. Yeah, we're gonna run high-quality 1024 768. Again, this is only a 128 meg card. It was definitely made for higher. Like, if you try to go to Ultra, requires over 500 megs of texture memory. No.
I say again, fall back to Marine HQ and await further orders.
I mean, it's not running too bad.
Squad leaders, give sit reps. Over.
I'd say that's about on par with what I was expecting. Yeah. It may not look amazing in terms of performance right now, but back then, seriously, it's like fantasy territory, especially for a laptop. Truly. Oh yeah. Oh, now I'm just playing Doom 3 forever again. Okay. And of course, DVD playback. I mean, that was a massive selling point for me back then. DVD and CDRW combo drive. Really wanted one of those, and I had just a standard DVD-ROM in my Toshiba. It's always time for Jurassic Park.
Why didn't I build it on that note?
I'll keep an eye on it. Maybe it'll swing south like the last one.
Those lovely old computers.
Ray.
Max, SGI stuff. Just an awesome display for watching DVDs on the go, even though you couldn't watch a full movie because the battery would run out before you could finish. So you'd probably have to plug it in at some point. But you know, such is the nature of putting a daggone desktop Pentium 4 in a portable computer. It's a ludicrous idea. I love that they did it nowadays anyway. I probably would have been somewhat disappointed in the whole portability aspect back in the day. Let's try one more thing here. I actually wanted to check out a benchmark. FutureMark 3D Mark 03, indeed. So it'll be running at 1024 by 768 and no anti-aliasing, just all the default tests. Just gonna go ahead and let this run and get the results while I head to the other room to grab some benchmarks for similar machines. For now though, enjoy some early 2000s 3D graphical benchmarks. Alrighty, well I hope you enjoyed that little interlude, and results are in. So 3391 is the 3D Mark 03 score here for just the default selection of things, which I mean means absolutely nothing unless we have something to compare it to. However, we do have some things to compare to thanks to the 3D Mark benchmark archives on their website, and two of the most similar machines in terms of specs and running this exact same GPU that I could find on their website anyway, were this Fujitsu Emilo A1630 and, no surprise, the Acer Ferrari 3400. And I think both of these were sort of in that general $2,000 range, which this one was too if you were to get it in kind of a base-ish, slightly expanded configuration, but they scored higher, with the Fujitsu getting 3713, running the same tests, and the Acer Ferrari 3903. And in fact, as I was just looking around the benchmarks listed on the website, one thing that was in common with all of them that were scoring better, but in similar price and specification ranges in late 2004, early 2005, the one thing they had in common was an AMD Athlon Mobile 3200 plus CPU. There were pretty much no Pentium 4s placing even close with this particular GPU. And if you know anything about the Pentium 4 Athlon 64 rivalry, if you can really call it that, then that makes total sense. The Pentium 4 3.2 gigahertz, even the desktop version versus the mobile Athlon 64 3200, I mean, look at that. It's just an objectively better CPU. It was faster. It probably ran cooler. All the benchmarks that I remember seeing back then and see now say that the Athlon 64 laptops and desktops as well just completely wiped the floor with the Pentium 4. I mean, the Pentium 4 was never a particularly great chip anyways, but then the 64 came along, and it was at this point that I was completely on board with AMD, and I was for years and years and years, and then I switched over to Intel again for a few years, and now I'm back to AMD, so yeah, Athlon 64, those impressed me back then, they still do now. Anyway, that is pretty much it for the Dell Inspiron 9100 with its ridiculous desktop CPU that really didn't blow anyone away except for it being a desktop CPU and a laptop and a built-in subwoofer that isn't really so much a subwoofer as it is a slight bass boost, maybe. Dell was trying. You know, they certainly got the headlines. It's one of those computers where the reputation, or really more the perception, was even better than what reality actually was. Not to say that it's a bad computer. I mean, still, it would have been fantastic to have this kind of thing. To me back then, this is beyond anything that I could imagine having myself. But it wasn't long until other computers, especially Athlon 64 mobile-based machines, were just outperforming it in pretty much every category. And then you had better graphics chips from NVIDIA and ATI coming along, and you had things like the Acer Ferrari series that I've covered before that were just so much better in so many ways. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed seeing this look back at this particular laptop. Thanks again to John for donating this so that we could all share in the experience. And if you did like what you saw here, then awesome. Maybe check out some of my other videos. I post LGR things on all kinds of topics each week right here on this very channel you're watching now. And as always, thank you very much for watching what you just did.